Good morning, good afternoon and good evening. Wherever you are and whatever you're doing, I hope you're having a fantastic day. In this video, I am very excited to present to you the best and rarest weapons in Elden Ring, all of which have less than a 1% drop chance. So let's get straight into it as we start off right here in the Dominular Windmill Village. There are actually 3 ultra rare weapons here with a 0.5% chance to drop. I will show you 2 of the 3, being the Celebrant's Rip Rake and the Celebrant's Cleaver. The final one is the Celebrant's Sickle. All 3 of them do basically the same thing. Once you've seen one, you've seen them all. None of them have any particularly nifty movesets or awesome Ashes of War. However, they are all upgraded with regular smithing stones and can be infused and buffed as you see fit. So they're very, very versatile. And the awesome feature about all 3 of these weapons is, as you can see here, every single time you hit an enemy, you gain 10 runes. 10 runes doesn't sound like much, but you do a lot of hitting in this game. So if you somehow luckily manage to farm one of these pretty early on in your playthrough and level it up, then you've got yourself a fairly tasty way of just passively gaining way more runes than usual, especially if you dual wield and power stance the cleavers. Because dual wielding and power stancing axes in this game, they have a pretty awesome moveset. Also, the festival dancers at the village are very easy to kill. So even though the drop chance is very low, farm itself is quite painless. Now we'll move on to 2 of my favourites. I know I should do that stereotypical YouTuber thing of making you wait to the end to see the really juicy ones, but I'm just too nice and too excited to show them off to you. So here is 2 of my favourites, the Cleanrot Spear and the Halo Scythe. We'll start off with the Halo Scythe, which will drop from any of the lesser Cleanrot Knights in the Aeonian Swamp area in Caelid that are wielding the Halo Scythe. And that is all of the ones that are walking around. All the ones that are currently hidden underneath the swamp and jump out at you, they're the ones wielding the spear, which we'll come on to in a minute. Firstly, as we're talking about the scythe, just look at the Ash of War. This is so incredibly awesome. It is so badass. Oh my god, I love it so much. The weapon skill, Miquella's Ring of Light, has to be one of my favourite weapon skills in the game. And you can just spam it and spam it and spam it as much as you want. And it has quite a decent range on it as well, along with a hefty amount of damage. There also aren't many scythes in the game, so the fact that this is in the scythe weapon category is awesome, and it has inherent blood loss on it as well. And the one other thing to note about this is it actually has anti-block, which I didn't even know was a thing in this game. It will actually deal more damage through blocks than your average weapon, roughly 40% more, with that percentage going up with heavy and charged attacks. And now, the one I'm even more excited about, and the one that was excruciating to farm, the Cleanrot Spear. As I say, this one you can farm from all of the Cleanrot Knights that are currently lying on the ground. There is a collection of them over on the right-hand side, and once you've defeated Commander O'Neill, you can use the Site of Grace where he was to just keep resting there and running south and killing a group of 4 of them nice and quickly. Now, let me just show you my inventory. Oh my god, look at this. Look how many friggin' armor sets and swords I have. Just to show you how painful this video was to make. This is just one example of how many enemies I had to farm to get these bloody weapons to drop. I have got 16 Cleanrot helms and also 16 Cleanrot armor. Add to that another 7 Cleanrot gauntlets, followed up by 20 pairs of Cleanrot greaves, and finally 24 Cleanrot Knight swords. I cannot stress how long I have been farming some of these weapons for the purposes of this video. If that ain't worth a like and a subscribe, I don't know what is. And as we're talking about the spear, as you've already seen, its weapon skill, the Sacred Phalanx, I've never known how you pronounce that word. Probably got different pronunciations depending on where you're from. That one. That is just awesome. It does take a while for all of the holy golden spectral spears to appear out of the floor, so it's not going to be super effective against really agile enemies, but it looks so incredibly cool. Also, this spear has a special R2 that it shares only with the short spear. No other spear in the game, bar these two, do that awesome charged double thrust that you see. As we move into the 5th weapon on this list, the Lazuli Glintstone Sword. This one you will find in the Raya Lucaria Academy, and drops specifically from Lazuli sorcerers that wield this sword themselves. The easiest one to farm is right by this Schoolhouse Classroom Site of Grace, which is the enemy we'll be testing the weapon out on. This sword is actually amazing for intelligence-based builds, and can be used as an alternative to the Carian Knight Sword if you are going for a pure caster build. The Carian Knight Sword will slightly outperform it if you're going for a hybrid build, however this outperforms if you're going for pure intelligence. Also, its weapon skill, the Glintstone Pebble, is awesome. It does exactly what the spell Glintstone Pebble does, but if you then follow up with an additional input, you will thrust forward with the sword, dealing a crazy amount of damage with your Glintstone infused sword. Overall, it's a neat little sword, packs a surprising punch, and it even has a very special, unique heavy attack that can block attacks before the slash comes out. And charging this heavy attack will further extend the time that the weapon blocks before you slash. Just note that despite the way it looks, it doesn't actually utilize your left hand shield during the attack, only the block stats of this weapon apply. Which is great because it means you don't need to have a weapon equipped to use it. So it is very versatile, along with being a solid fast melee option for an intellect build. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at the Noble's Slender Sword that you see here, and in my other hand, the Noble's Estoc. Both of these swords are dropped from the Wandering Nobles in Limgrave. Obviously, you'll need to kill nobles carrying that weapon for a chance for it to drop, and the drop chance for both of these is absurdly low, something stupid like 0.2, and the armor sets that go along with them are a crazy low drop chance as well. There's nothing too awesome to shout about when it comes to their movesets. One is just a very standard straight sword, and the other is a very standard thrusting sword. They can both be buffed with magic and consumables as much as you want, along with changing the infused Ashes of War as well, so they are completely customizable. And the thing that does make them quite nifty is the fact that they are dipped in gold. This is not just a cosmetic effect, it means that they are one of the most expensive items in the game when it comes to selling them, both selling for 1,000 runes each. And probably your best bet when trying to farm them both is this caravan here, just outside of the waypoint ruins that I was in at the start of this clip. As you can see, just like with other straight swords and thrusting swords, with the right stats and fully maxed out, they still pack a punch. And even though there's nothing specifically awesome about them when it comes to combat, they're still worth farming even if just for a cosplay build. The next weapon we'll be looking at is the Thorned Whip. This is probably technically the highest percent drop chance of any weapon that made this list. However, it literally only drops from one enemy in the game who is quite tough, so it's still a slog to grind for. To get there, you want to start here at the Giant's Mountaintop Catacombs, head back out and you'll see the Fire Prelate wielding this just at the end of the bridge. And as it says, this hefty whip is covered in crimson thorns. It is the weapon of the prelates who lead the fire monks, and is a device of fearsome religious encouragement, fashioned in the image of the Briars of Sin. Now, there is unfortunately not really anything very awesome to shout about when it comes to this whip. Yeah, okay, it's very effective at inflicting blood loss, as it says, but really the reason you're farming for this is purely just for bragging rights to say you have it. I will leave in the fight of me versus the guy who wields it, because the moveset he uses is amazing! I'm so jealous when fighting him, and yeah, I'm super jealous that we don't get any special moveset like the Fire Prelate does. It is quite customizable as you can change the Ashes of War. It starts off with Kick, which is a very niche but very powerful Ash of War in the right situation. Next up, I will meet you at the Dragon Temple Lift Grace site in the crumbling Faramazula as we take a look at the Beastman's Curved Sword and, more importantly, the Beastman's Cleaver. We'll look at the curved sword very quickly first because the cleaver is the more important one. Both of them, as with all weapons in this video, have an insanely low drop rate, and without things like high arcane, the silver tier scarab, and a silver pickled foulfoot, it is practically impossible to get them. So do make sure you're using them items and you've got the right stats before you try and farm these. That being said, curved sword is a lot easier to get purely because of how many beastmen in this area wield it. The best place specifically for this one actually is probably near the crumbling beast grave site of grace, because there are 7 beastmen carrying this weapon in a few rooms around that grace site. But the reason we're not going to dwell on this weapon any longer is because the Beastman's Cleaver is literally just a straight upgrade on the curved sword. The curved sword is decent if you're going for a quality build because it has strength and dex scaling, but the dex scaling that it offers is fairly minor. And when you compare it to the Beastman's Cleaver, which is a curved greatsword as opposed to just being a curved sword, the Beastman's Cleaver literally just outclasses it in every single aspect. It has more damage, it has higher scaling, it breaks guards quicker, it's just so insanely good. Dual wielding these two and jump attacking with the right builds, you will obliterate everything in sight. Absolutely everything. So now, as I've been talking, let me show you the 2 beastmen that you can farm to acquire this weapon. There are 4 beastmen in total, but the other 2 are miles away from each other. So as you've seen, as we've been talking, we've gone at the bottom of that lift and we've been clearing the way of a few enemies. Before long, once you're at the top of these stairs, you can then climb up this broken pillar in front of us and head to the top of that platform. There is a particularly powerful beastman wielding the Beastman's Cleaver up there. However, the one that dropped it for me, and he is nowhere near as powerful, come back to the stairs and start heading down, and he will be just here at the bottom of the stairs. This is the guy that dropped this weapon for me. And as I don't have a second Beastman's Cleaver, let me just equip any other curved greatsword and show you the moveset is freaking awesome, and you will decimate anything if you choose to use this as your late game build. Now that I've shown off these incredibly awesome and rare weapons to you, let's move on to the next one, the Magma Blade. For this one, we're going to start out at the Temple of Igle Site of Grace in Volcano Manor. This is where you would have defeated the Godskin Noble. From here, head up the lift on your right as I show off the weapon. I'm also wielding the Man Serpent's shield, just because that's what they use, but what we're focusing on is the Magma Blade. This is a curved sword that scales with faith scaling and does inherent fire damage. It is a curved sword with a blade fashioned from the lava of Mount Gelmir, an armament of the Man Serpents impossible for a human to have made. It deals fire damage, and most importantly, its unique skill, the Magma Shower, gives you the best of both worlds when combining the moveset of a curved sword with the awesome weapon art of a whip, as you will slash at foes in a twirling motion while scattering magma all around, and an additional input allows for a follow-up attack. As you can see here as we're coming out of the room, it is awesome. So now head along the balcony, jump down, and make your way to the top of the fires of Mount Doom. Be careful of the Virgin Abductor that will come around the corner as you're traversing the lava. Run past her, head through the door on your right, and this is where you will find the first of the 2 serpents that can potentially drop this blade. And once you've taken him out, in this next room we're going to show off the Ash of War as we take out this enemy. And down the other end of this corridor is the other serpent that could potentially drop the blade. There is 1 or 2 more throughout Volcano Manor. I believe there's only 1 more, but he is so far away from the other 2 that this is your best bet. Just grinding these 2 and resetting back at the Temple of Igle until you hopefully get the Magma Blade. Incredibly awesome curved sword to add to your arsenal, and good luck. Next, we will move into the Spiked Spear of the Marionettes. The best place to farm this one is at the converted tower to the southwest of Liurnia. And you basically want to look around the tower for any of the marionettes around that are wielding a spear. Obviously, the ones using bows and arrows won't drop it. So, specifically, there are 2 patrolling the slope to the north of the tower, 1 standing to the northeast of the tower further down the slope from the previous 2, 1 patrolling the northwest, and finally 2 more patrolling in the woods to the south. As there are 6 enemies all quite close by, you shouldn't have many problems getting this one. Having 2 of them means that you can truly roleplay as a marionette. However, unlike when wielded by the marionettes, you unfortunately can't start flailing them around you at 1,000,000% speed like they do, but it's still a cool weapon to have. And this spear does have a rare horizontal R2, which is shared only with the Partisan and the Death Ritual Spear. And I will equip the Cleanrot Knight Spear just to show you that when you do dual wield spears, their power stanced moves are very, very awesome. Also, it does have inherent blood loss build-up and can be infused with any Ash of War and buffed with any magic or consumables, making it quite versatile if you do want to go for a spear build. Now let's move on to the Ripple Crescent Halberd of the Albinaurics. For this one, we're going to start off at the Palace Approach Ledge Road Site of Grace. I'm sure many of us cheesy farmers are very familiar with. None of the Albinaurics here actually wield this weapon, so we will head down in just a minute. But let me review it for you first. This weapon cannot be infused with different Ashes of War. However, what makes this an incredibly powerful sleeper weapon is the fact that it can be buffed with magic and consumables, and is one of the very few arcane scaling weapons that can. Along with having an S scaling before it is even fully maxed out, this means that it will significantly increase status effect builder as well as damage, which means this is ideal for melee arcane builds and using a lot of greases. For certain greases, such as the drawstring poison grease, it will nearly double the effectiveness of that grease. So this can be an incredibly powerful weapon when in the right hands and used with the right build. Now for where to get it, just keep heading all the way down the hill, and at the bottom when you get to the blood swamps you will see no less than 9 Albinaurics just patrolling around a couple of trees, all wielding this weapon. And as you can see, this one I somehow very luckily managed to get a second one almost instantly. Hopefully you get that lucky and this grind isn't too bad for you, but don't hold your breath, just in case. Now we're going to move into 2 of the Monk's weapons, the Monk's Flame Mace, and then, way more importantly, the Monk's Flame Blade. Both of these weapons are technically as rare as each other, however, you may find that you actually already have the Monk's Flame Mace just from a regular playthrough, because there are lots and lots of monks that will drop this weapon. There's a bunch of them wielding it in Liurnia and in the mountaintops of the Giants, and even more monks wielding this weapon are patrolling around the Guardian's garrison as well. It is still super rare and super nifty, so I will quickly show it off for you just here. It also has a very unique R2. As you can see, the strong attack rouses a fiery combative spirit and looks a bit stupid, if I'm entirely honest. But the main reason we are checking out the Monk's weapons is because of the Monk's Flame Blade. This can literally only drop from 1 enemy in the entire game, and I am absolutely devastated that it is not more badass. It can be infused with Ashes of War, so it doesn't just need to have the spinning slash that quite a few weapons have. But apart from that, there is nothing that cool about it. It looks absolutely amazing, don't get me wrong. But surely this should have innate fire damage. Why would it not? It's called the Flame Blade. It's a curved sword with a flickering flame motif. It's wielded by fire monks who came to the land of Liurnia in pursuit of a fugitive who stole their fire. There physically could be no more references to fire on this weapon, yet it doesn't deal any fire damage. It is unfortunately very generic, but as you can equip an Ash of what? Ash of what? What the fuck is an Ash of what? But as you can equip different Ashes of War on it, equip something like the Flames of the Red Mane or Flaming Strike and put the Flame Art infusion on it. That will make it very, very awesome. Now, finally, as for where to get it, from the Site of Grace, go down the stairs to your left. You can avoid the first Fire Monk completely if you want, and then go right through the hidden path, jump down, avoiding or killing the imps, and then proceed forward. Here you can use Margit's Shackle to turn off the flame trap, which I have already done, and as you head down this hallway, the only monk in the game wielding this weapon will ambush you from the corridor off to your right. This is a painful farm as he is the only enemy in the game that drops this weapon, so good luck. And we will now move into the final of the 16 rarest weapons in Elden Ring, and that is the Guardian's Sword Spear. When it comes to this weapon, the best place to farm it is going to be the Minor Erdtree Church at the south of the Lanedale capital outskirts. There are 6 Guardians here around the church, most of them are hiding in the floor though, so have a look for what look like bunches of red flowers sticking out of the ground. That is actually their armor. And hopefully, after a few resets with high enough discovery, you'll be able to grab yourself the Guardian's Sword Spear. Now, this weapon is incredibly slept on and needs quite a lot of explanation to stress exactly how amazing this is. Firstly, again, it has the spinning slash, but you can infuse it with any Ash of War and get rid of that. More importantly, this weapon has insanely high scaling with dexterity, especially if you apply the keen affinity to it. So much so that a plus 25 keen sword spear actually has a higher attack rating at both 99 strength and 99 dex than a quality short spear at 99 strength and 99 dex. To put that into perspective, for anyone that doesn't know what that means, a quality weapon will scale off both strength and dexterity. So your 99 strength stat will be contributing to the power of this weapon along with your 99 dex stat. However, if it's keen, then the only stat that will be affecting the power of the weapon is dexterity. So its dexterity scaling is that insane that even when both strength and dex are at 99, keen still outperforms quality. I don't know if this has been patched yet, I don't believe it has, but it says it has an A ranking in dexterity scaling in the menu. This is insanely misleading because it actually has more attack rating than the two other best S-scaling halberds in the game, being the Gargoyle's Halberd and the Knight Rider's Glaive. It is literally the most powerful halberd in the game when used at plus 25 with the keen scaling. If you want a bloody powerful dex weapon, this is the one you want to use. And just to stress it even further, the keen affinity scaling is that mentally insane that the extra attack rating from the keen scaling overshadows literally any possible benefit of having any other split damage on this weapon, even at low levels where split damage is more valuable. And finally, since this weapon will produce exceptional attack rating with keen affinity, even at the second soft cap of only 55 dexterity, it is still insanely effective with a hybrid build, which means you could easily run a Dex Faith or Dex Int build, and as it's buffable by Electric Armament, Black Flame Blade or Scholar's Armament, this will then leave you with more stats to be invested into the spell scaling stat of the build, making you a powerhouse in both melee and spellcasting. It also has a unique moveset compared to most other halberds, shared only with Loretta's War Sickle. Honestly, this is probably the most slept on weapon in the game. I've done a separate build guide based around this weapon because it is so powerful, so make sure you go and check that out as well. With that being said, we have now finished our list of the 16 rarest weapons in Elden Ring. This took me hours and hours to make for you, so a like and a subscribe would really be appreciated and would help out tremendously. And if you want to go that one step further, there are many ways to support the channel if you want to show your thanks and your support and help us to grow in whatever way you see fit, whether that be a super thanks, grabbing some merch, subbing to Patreon, whatever you want to do. If you should choose to do any of these things, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. And as always, thank you for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.